You are now tuned in to the Storm Tracker podcast.
Welcome back, family, to the Storm Tracker podcast, tracking the storm that is the Miami Hurricanes. I'm Marcus Benjamin, publisher of CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals.com network. Make sure you subscribe to the website, CanesCounty.com, for free. Use the promo code Miami30. And right now it's transfer portal season, and I'm bringing in none other than my guy, Adam Friedman, rankings director and national transfer portal analyst. I hope I got that title right, Adam.
Yeah. I think that covers all my bases. Yeah.
Yeah, to talk about the transfer portal and the Miami Hurricanes involvement, and see what players that Miami should really kind of go after, and just who are kind of the best players on the market right now with the transfer portal. I know your head's spinning right now with all the players that are going into the portal. Some are kind of, going in, coming out, or rumors about them going into the portal and not going in. It's a lot going on right now, Adam. But I do want to ask about the overall options for the transfer portal. You've seen a ton of guys come in. Who are the names that are really kind of, popping out for you?
Yeah, I mean, the big name that popped out was former five-star receiver Micah Hudson. That was the guy who we all expected to have a really big impact at Texas Tech in his freshman season. He was a five-star in last year's recruiting class with Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams and Cam Coleman. And Micah was right there with those guys. And he basically had no impact at Texas Tech this season. And unsurprisingly, we found him in the portal. And, he's got a list of options right now. I think Texas Tech has the upper hand at this point. Teams like LSU and a few others are in the mix there. Really like another receiver in this group too, Barian Brown out of Kentucky. Explosive receiving threat, very versatile, can be lined up in a number of spaces. There are teams from all over the country really trying to get him. It seems like he's probably going to end up in the SEC at this point, but we'll have to kind of wait and see there. Really like another receiver. Like, it's a great receiver class. You're probably picking up on that theme. Casey Concepcion, who we had as a 4-star coming out of high school, has certainly outplayed that rating. A mid 5'8" type of player. That's a low 4-star. He's outplayed that rating, and he's got his list of options as well. There's a bunch of guys, Eric Singleton, another receiver. Jackson Arnold is one of the better quarterbacks in the portal. I think he's probably going to end up at Mississippi State, but we just saw a bunch of them enter their names in the last maybe 2 days or so. That quarterback position is on the rise. Maybe not as many headliners as we saw in the previous transfer portal cycle, but this year there are a lot of really good quarterbacks who can help carry a team. Maybe not go win a ton of games, but certainly can carry a team and be serviceable quarterbacks.
Yeah, Miami definitely should be in the market for a quarterback. There's a lot of talk if Miami should just kind of roll with Emory Williams for this next season. I'm not necessarily one of those guys. I think Miami should definitely go after a quarterback, especially with Cam Ward. We'll see. Maybe he wins the Heisman on Saturday. But one thing that is for sure is that he will no longer be a Miami Hurricane next season. So, you talked a little bit about the quarterback options already. Jackson Arnold is one guy that you mentioned. But what are some of the other quarterback options that Miami should or could be looking at?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Devin Brown from Ohio State announced that he's going to enter the portal, but is staying with the Buckeyes until they finish their season. We've got guys like, Thomas Castellanos just came into Florida State. He's a good prospect there. You're reuniting with Gus Malzahn, the new offensive coordinator there. I like guys like Hank Brown is going to probably end up at Iowa. We're seeing players like Fernando Mendoza just went in the portal yesterday, a South Florida native, right? A guy that I'm sure Miami fans have on their radar. Sure. Be interesting to see what his recruiting process looks like when he starts to really engage with the transfer process. Luke Kromenhoek from Florida State is in the portal. He did not like the way that Florida State went after additional quarterbacks in the portal, and now he's looking for a new home. Braden Locke from Wisconsin is in the portal. Grayson Loftus at Duke, Malik Murphy from Duke as well in the portal. It sounds like Auburn is really doing what they need to do to try to get Malik Murphy. We'll see how things turn out. I believe he's on campus. What's today? Thursday. I believe he's on campus yesterday and today. So we'll see how things turn out there. There's a bunch of other quarterbacks here. Caden Salter is one to keep an eye on from Liberty. It'd be interesting to see what he does. He was with Hugh Freeze for a while. We'll see if that ends up happening again. Michael Van Buren from Mississippi State is in the transfer portal. He had a good freshman season for the Bulldogs, and we'll see where he ends up. His former teammate Deshaun Womack, a big-time defensive end at LSU, he just announced for Ole Miss this morning, so we'll see how much that plays into Van Buren's recruiting process. There are a few other quarterbacks that we're keeping an eye on. There's still 2.5 weeks left in the transfer process, or in this portal window, I should say. So Isaac Wilson is another name I wanted to mention too. From Utah, he had a fairly good season this year. He's just a freshman. He's got a lot of eligibility left as well. So another guy that Miami could take a look at.
A guy I actually want to ask about is Darian Mensah. That is a name that's kind of popping up down here in the Miami Hurricanes kind of circles. What's your opinion on him, just as a quarterback, and what he could potentially bring to a Power 4 program?
Yeah, he's a really good quarterback. He did just sign with Duke last night and this morning. So, after Duke lost Grayson Loftus and Malik Murphy, they went and got Eric Mensah. So, good for them to have that lined up right there. But Mensah's a really good player. Do it with his arm, his legs, a bigger quarterback than you would expect. He sees the field well. He's got that innate playmaking ability that you guys are very familiar with as Miami fans. You've seen Cam Ward do his thing this past season. So I like what Mensah brings to the table. It seems like the other ACC teams are going to have to deal with him this season coming up, I should say. We'll see what Duke is able to do after really impressing this season.
Wasn't aware of that. Was at a high school football game last night, so I kind of missed some of the news that was kind of going on last night. So that's unfortunate to hear that Mensah is now at an ACC foe at that. But it will be interesting what Miami does. Of course, Reese Poffenbarger, quarterback from Miami, backup, also entered the portal as well. Of course, they got Luke Nickel coming out from recruiting as well, but it just seems to be kind of thin. They also still have Judd Anderson as well on the roster as well, but those guys really inexperienced. Emory Williams has some experience, but I think that they need a guy who has a lot more game experience than Williams to really contend next season. This season, defensive back was an issue. For Miami. I think defense overall, but especially the defensive back group, the secondary. I think Miami needs probably the most help at that spot. What are some of the guys at defensive back that Miami should go after that you've seen?
Well, luckily for Miami, it's a really good year at cornerback and at safety in the portal this year. We just saw Takario Davis from Arizona enter his name into the portal last night, along with his teammate in the secondary, Dylan Johnson, I believe his name was. Dalton Johnson, I think, one of the two. He's a really good player too, really productive while they're at Arizona. I like what we're seeing from this group in terms of the safeties, though. Davis and Johnson have been safeties, but I like Dylan Theneman from Purdue. We'll see how things turn out there. I heard Oregon might be a team to watch for him. I like Julian Humphrey from Georgia. There's some hurdles there to deal with, but former 5-star guy, super talented player, familiar with high-end competition and just a really solid player. Jakeem Jackson is somebody that Miami should take a look at. It could be difficult, though, because he's got a really strong relationship with LSU defensive backs coach Corey Raymond, who actually recruited him to Florida, and it seems like LSU is kind of in the driver's seat there. I like Jamel Johnson from TCU, another really solid player. Kylan Jackson from Louisiana State. University, LSU, and Bryce Pollock is somebody that has generated some buzz there. I think Michigan is involved with him there. But the number of defensive backs continues to rise in the transfer portal. Charles Brantley from Michigan State is a name to keep an eye on. Jair Brown, former, kind of a big name recruit. His career and the college level hasn't exactly panned out the way many thought it would. An interesting player to watch is Cameron Calhoun. He was at Utah. I think he signed with it was either Michigan or Wisconsin out of high school, and ended up at Utah. And he's a really good player, really kind of a spark plug back there. I would kind of compare him maybe a little bit to he's got an attitude similar to like CJ Gardner Johnson, right? He's a
Gotcha.
energetic guy, likes to mix it up, and I like what he's able to do on the field. Amarian Cooper from Florida State's in the transfer portal. Kendall Daniels from Oklahoma State's been an excellent player in the secondary. He's kind of a hybrid linebacker safety player. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. He's got some scheme versatility, and he'll be a good fit, I think, wherever he ends up. He's going to have a short list of schools that I think he thinks is going to be able to maximize his skill set. There's a lot of good options for Miami in the secondary. True cornerbacks may be a little hard to come by this year, but some really solid, versatile players there.
Awesome stuff. Adam Friedman, once again, joining me from Rivals.com. He is the expert when it comes to the transfer portal, which is often running here in the winter window. I did want to ask also about just options in the trenches. Usually Miami tries to build in recruiting with the trenches when it comes to defensive line and offensive line. So that's those positions. Usually Miami will kind of stick with the guys that they've recruited, but they brought in some guys like last year, like Simeon Barrow and Tyler Barron and CJ Clark, Marley Cook. All these guys were in the rotation for the defensive line. Offensive line, not so much as far as players that they usually go after. That is an area they definitely usually kind of just want to build from within. But when you look at the trench options, which are vital to winning football games, of course, which options do you see as the best options in the trenches?
Yeah, we'll start on the offensive line. I really like the offensive lineman out of Rice, Ethan Onewana, I believe is how you say his last name. He's a really good player there. He's going to have a number of options this transfer portal cycle. I don't think he's in a hurry to make a decision, so we'll kind of see how things turn out there. I'm going to list off a bunch of offensive linemen. Brady Wilson from UAB, Josh Thompson from Northwestern, Xavier Holmes from Maine. Well, he's a defensive lineman, but I really like his skill set there. Brady Norton from Cal Poly, an offensive lineman there, has a lot of experience this year. In just his first year, he did a great job for those guys. Austin Gentle from Harvard as a grad transfer, like what he is able to bring to the table. Jaquan McRoy was a player I think Miami was involved with during his initial recruitment. He's transferring from Oregon just after his freshman year, an absolutely massive player. He was like 6'7" or 6'8", probably pushing 350 or so. Just a huge body. Derek Simmons is an offensive lineman from Western Carolina who's generated a lot of early buzz. He's got a long offer sheet in the transfer portal, so we'll see how things turn there for him. On the defensive side of the ball, I really like Kelby Collins from Florida. He's struggled kind of staying on the field consistently, but he still has the ability to make a big impact there. We'll see if he's able to go somewhere where he's kind of got a fresh start, and he's only a sophomore, so he's got a couple more years of eligibility. So we'll see if he's going to be able to make a consistent impact at his next stop there. I mentioned Xavier Holmes from Maine, a high-end, kind of impact defensive lineman from up north there. We'll see where he ends up. Deshaun Womack, like I just said, from LSU, he ended up at Ole Miss this morning, but we'll see how that goes with him over there. Of course, Ole Miss needs to reload on the defensive line as well. Purdue has a lot of players in the transfer portal right now. One of their best is Will Held, the defensive end. He's only a sophomore too. Lots of options for him. Deshaun Warner from Kansas is just transferred after his freshman year. Very high ceiling for him, and everybody can use a young pass rusher with potential. He may not make a quick decision, so we'll see where things turn for him. Another Purdue defensive tackle, Cole Brevard, kind of a plugger in the middle, maybe not a really tall guy, but really strong, kind of wide body there. Keyshawn Silver has been linked to Miami, the Kentucky transfer. He's looking for his third school now. He's only a junior, big time high school recruit from the state of North Carolina. We'll see where things turn for him. He's more of an interior guy on the defensive line. Be interesting to see, though, what kind of decision he ends up making. Those are some of the biggest names right now. Of course, we're getting some other entries as the days go on here. But as far as the ones that we've evaluated and got ratings on, those are some of the bigger name guys that we've seen pop into the portal.
Nice. So, lastly, Miami was kind of lacking explosiveness last season. I mean, yeah, you had solid receiver in Xavier Strepo, obviously a record-setting type of guy, but probably not the most explosive player. Jacoby George, had his moments, but not consistent, I guess, enough. And you're going to lose those two guys, as far as receiver. You did talk about receivers earlier in this podcast, but running backs, tight ends, which player, like if you were a team, I don't know who your favorite team is, by the way. I don't know.
I don't root for teams. I root for players. Everybody. I hate everybody's team, and I love the teams that you guys hate. So yeah.
Gotcha. But if you were starting a team today, and you had to kind of build through the transfer portal, and you needed 3 explosive guys that you had to get, which 3 guys would you say are the most explosive players in the portal right now?
Well, at receiver, there's probably 3 of them that I would be really excited about. There's a bunch of receivers that I'd be really excited about, but 3, if I had to narrow it down to 3, it'd probably be, man, that's tough. I'd take any of these players. It could be my 3. Hudson from Texas Tech, Barium Brown, Casey Concepcion, Dane Key, Eric Singleton. Eric Singleton probably be on that list. I think he clocked a 10.2 in the 100 when he was in high school. So incredible speed there. Any of those receivers I'd be happy with if I'm needed a really explosive presence. Let me throw Eric Rivers in there as well. Just incredibly productive from FIU.
Thank you for mentioning him. I meant to mention him earlier.
Yeah, really, really good player there. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the uptick in competition and talent that he's going to face at the Power 4 level. But hard to argue with the numbers there. Really like at tight end, Lucas from Arkansas. Maybe not as explosive as you'd like, but still a really good player who's going to be able to help you move the chains and maybe pick up chunks of yards. Tanner Kazoil from Ball State, one of the better tight ends in the transfer portal right now. Zach Atkins from Northwest Missouri State's really impressive as well. You're going to see his rating get updated here soon. I know he's a lower 3-star for us right now, but he's a very impressive prospect coming up from, I think, the FCS, I guess that is, ranks. And then at running back, there's a lot of running backs that could fit your description there. I like Eli Sanders from New Mexico, and I like I think he's probably the more explosive guy that I've seen come through. He's just really consistent there. I like the kid from Penn, Malachi Horsley, I think is his last name, or Hosley, something I think that's what it is. Really productive guy. We'll see where he ends up to. I think he's got a visit coming up to North Carolina in the next few days. So he's going to start looking at some more ACC schools, I think.
Yeah, Miami's pretty deep at tight end, I would say, and running back, but they did lose 2 guys to the portal, and A.J. Allen and Chris Johnson Jr. We'll see where Chris Humphrey goes or if he stays. But Miami's obviously losing Damian Martinez, and you have explosive running back Jordan Lyle on the team, along with bruiser Mark Fletcher. So I think they could add maybe one more guy there from the portal. And tight end, they're pretty deep as well. They're going to likely lose Elijah Arroyo. And then you got Elijah Lofton from last recruiting cycle, as well as a Riley Williams. So I could see them maybe adding a guy there as well. Wide receiver is probably the most interesting one. Eric Rivers, like you mentioned, is uh, rumored to be visiting Miami this. I like to say rumored for everything because you never know, and sometimes they just don't visit. But he's supposed to visit this weekend to Miami, so be interesting to see if they indeed take Eric Rivers when it's all said and done. That is going to wrap it up for the Storm Tracker podcast. Adam Friedman was kind enough to provide his insight on the transfer portal. Of course, we've still got a couple of weeks left of this, so maybe we will reconnect again. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Really appreciate you, Marcus.
All right. Once again, that's going to wrap it up for the Storm Tracker podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel live from Kings County, and also subscribe to the website canescounty.com for free. Use the promo code Miami30. Until the next episode.